Private Do-hyun Kim knew he was in trouble the moment his ship's engines died. The small scout vessel drifted silently through space, all its lights dark. Around him, 3 alien patrol ships circled like hungry sharks. "Computer, emergency restart," he said calmly, his fingers moving quickly across the control panel. The computer stayed silent. This wasn't a normal system failure. The alien ships had used some kind of new technology to shut down his engines. Do-hyun smiled slightly. The aliens thought they had won, but they had just made their first mistake. They wanted to capture him alive. Through the front window of his ship, he could see the largest alien patrol vessel moving closer. Its strange, purple metal hull gleamed in the light of a distant star. The aliens believed humans were weak and simple creatures. They thought human soldiers were nothing special without their advanced weapons and ships. "Let them think that," Do-hyun whispered to himself as he quickly deleted all important data from his ship's computer. He had trained for situations like this. In fact, some of his best work had started with someone underestimating him. A strong vibration shook his ship. The aliens had activated their tractor beam, pulling his vessel toward their much larger ship. Do-hyun used these few moments to check his hidden equipment one last time. The aliens would take away his obvious weapons, but they wouldn't find everything. They never did. The patrol ship's docking bay was huge, at least 3 times bigger than any human design. Do-hyun's small scout ship looked like a toy as it was pulled inside. He could see alien guards gathering below, their tall, armored forms carrying weapons that looked like a mix between rifles and spears. Interesting, Do-hyun thought, memorizing every detail. Their security protocol needs at least 8 guards for 1 human prisoner. They're either very cautious or very afraid. A loud clang echoed through his ship as it landed. The docking bay doors closed behind him, trapping him inside the alien vessel. Most people would feel scared at this moment, but Do-hyun felt strangely calm. Every alien ship he could study, every piece of their technology he could see, and every bit of their behavior he could observe would help humanity win this war. The door of his ship opened with a hiss. Bright blue-white light poured in as alien guards surrounded the entrance. Their armor made soft clicking sounds as they moved. "Exit your vessel, human," a harsh voice commanded in slightly broken English. "Attempt nothing foolish." Do-hyun stood up slowly, keeping his hands visible. As he walked out of his ship, he carefully counted the guards, noted their positions, and studied their equipment. The aliens might think they were gathering information by capturing him, but he was already gathering information about them. One of the guards, wearing armor with extra markings that probably showed higher rank, stepped forward. "You are now prisoner of the Galactic Alliance. You will be taken to maximum security facility for holding and study." "I understand," Do-hyun said simply, allowing 2 guards to secure his hands with strange, glowing restraints. The aliens seemed almost disappointed by how easily he surrendered. They had expected humans to be violent and unpredictable. As they led him away from his ship, Do-hyun glanced back one last time. The aliens would search it thoroughly, but they wouldn't find anything useful. Everything important was already safely stored in his mind, and that was something they couldn't search. The guard leader spoke into a communication device. "Inform command. Human prisoner secured. Preparing transfer to prison station X-227. Do-hyun remembered this detail, like he remembered everything else. He didn't know yet how this information would become useful, but he knew it would. As the aliens marched him deeper into their ship, he began planning his next moves. They thought they had captured a simple human soldier. Soon they would learn what humans were really capable of. And by then, it would be too late. Prison Station X-227 looked like a giant metal spider floating in space. Its central hub connected to 8 long arms, each one holding different prison sections. Do-hyun studied the structure through the transport ship's window as they approached. He had been in space for 3 days since his capture, and every moment had taught him something new about his captors. Commander Yunji Park waited at the docking bay with 4 armed guards. She stood straight and proud, her silvery uniform showing her high rank in the alien prison system. As Do-hyun was led down the ship's ramp in chains, she stepped forward to inspect him. "This is the human who caused so much trouble in Sector 7, she asked, her voice carrying a mix of curiosity and doubt. Do-hyun noticed how she spoke about him as if he wasn't there, another sign of how the aliens view humans. "Yes, Commander," the transport guard answered. "Captured 3 days ago near the supply routes. Central Command wants him studied. They think humans must have secret technology helping them fight so well." Commander Park walked slowly around Do-hyun, studying him like someone might study an interesting insect. "Put him in cell block D, maximum security. I want triple monitoring at all times." The guards led Do-hyun through long corridors with curved metal walls. He counted every turn, noted every security scanner, and observed how each door opened and closed. The aliens thought he was just walking quietly, but his mind was building a detailed map. Cell Block D was different from the other areas they had passed. The lights were brighter, the guards more numerous, and the security systems more obvious. They stopped at a cell with transparent walls made of some kind of super-strong material. "Your new home, human," one guard said, pushing him inside. The door sealed with a soft hiss. Do-hyun sat on the simple bed and looked around his cell. The aliens had designed it to be escape-proof, but they had made one serious mistake. They had given him time to think. And a thinking human was the most dangerous weapon of all. Later that day, Commander Park visited his cell. She stood outside the transparent wall, watching him with her strange, silver eyes. "I hope you understand your situation," she said. "No one has ever escaped from X-227. Not in its entire history." Do-hyun looked up at her and smiled politely. "That's very impressive," he said. His simple response seemed to confuse her. She had expected anger, fear, or denial. "You will be interviewed tomorrow," she continued. "Our scientists want to understand how humans fight so effectively with such primitive brains." She waited for him to react to the insult, but Do-hyun just kept smiling. After she left, Do-hyun lay back on his bed and closed his eyes. In just one day, he had learned so much. The aliens relied too heavily on their technology. They had many guards but poor coordination between them. And most importantly, everyone on this station believed it was impossible to escape. Through the wall of his cell, he could see other prisoners in nearby cells. In one, he spotted another human. The first he'd seen since his capture. The man caught his eye and gave a tiny nod. Do-hyun nodded back just as slightly. He wasn't alone here. That night, as the station's lights dimmed to simulate nighttime, Do-hyun began organizing everything he had learned into a plan. The aliens thought they were studying him, but he had spent the whole day studying them. They believed humans were simple creatures who only understood basic things. Soon they would learn how wrong they were, but by then, Do-hyun would be ready. 2 weeks passed in prison station X-227. Do-hyun spent his time watching and waiting. Every day, he learned more about how the prison worked. The guards changed shifts at the same times. The security cameras moved in the same patterns. Even Commander Park did her inspections following the same route each day. The human prisoner he had seen on his first day was named He-jun Lee. They never spoke directly, but they found ways to communicate. A cough meant danger nearby, but a yawn meant guards were getting lazy. Tapping fingers against legs passed simple messages that the aliens didn't understand. Guard Captain Ta-won Choi was in charge of Cell Block D during the day shift. At first, he treated Do-hyun like all the other guards did, as a simple creature who couldn't understand complex things. But Do-hyun had a plan for him. One day, when Captain Choi was walking past his cell, Do-hyun sat on the floor doing something that caught the guard's attention. He had taken his food tray and arranged his food in strange patterns. "What are you doing, human?" Choi asked, stopping to watch. Do-hyun looked up with an innocent expression. "I'm solving math problems," he said simply. "It helps pass the time." Captain Choi stepped closer to the transparent wall. "Math problems? With food?" "Yes," Do-hyun said. "Would you like to see?" He pointed to the pattern he had made. "This is a sequence puzzle. Each number follows a rule to make the next number. Can you guess what the next pattern should be?" Against his better judgment, Captain Choi found himself interested. He looked at the pattern Do-hyun had made with pieces of food. After a minute, his eyes widened. "It's a geometric sequence," he said, surprised that a human could create such a thing. Do-hyun smiled. "That's right. Would you like to try a harder one?" From that day on, Captain Choi started spending more time near Do-hyun's cell. They solved puzzles together, with Do-hyun always acting impressed when Choi solved them quickly. But Do-hyun was actually learning more about the captain than the captain was learning about him. Ajun watched all this from his cell. He understood what Do-hyun was doing. While other prisoners tried to fight the system with force, Do-hyun was fighting it with something much more powerful: influence. Commander Park noticed the changes in Captain Choi's behavior. She didn't like how he was starting to treat the human prisoner differently. "Remember, they are simple creatures," she told him one day. "Don't let yourself be fooled by tricks." But it was too late. Captain Choi had already started to doubt what he had been taught about humans. He saw how Do-hyun solved complex problems, how he spoke carefully and thoughtfully, how he remembered every detail of their conversations. One night, after the lights dimmed, Ho-jum sent Do-hyun a message through their silent code. "Other prisoners ready. Guards changing. Some trust you now." Do-hyun sent back a simple reply: "Good. Time for next step." In his cell, Do-hyun smiled to himself. The aliens had built their prison with strong walls, powerful weapons, and advanced technology. But they had forgotten something important. The strongest weapon isn't a gun or a bomb. It's the ability to change how people think. And in that kind of warfare, humans were the real experts. 1 month into his stay at prison station X-227, Do-hyun started the first part of his plan. He had spent weeks learning how the prison's systems worked. Now it was time to test them. The day started normally. Guards changed shifts at the usual time. Commander Park did her morning inspection. Everything seemed peaceful in cell block D. Do-hyun sat in his cell, solving another puzzle with Captain Choi through the transparent wall. "The answer is 15, Do-hyun said, pointing to his latest math pattern. But as he moved his hand, he knocked his water cup over. Water spilled across the cell floor. "I'll call maintenance," Captain Choi said, reaching for his communicator. Do-hyun smiled to himself. This was exactly what he had planned. In the next cell, Ho-jum watched carefully. He knew something was about to happen. The maintenance robot arrived quickly. It was a simple machine that cleaned spills and fixed basic problems. As it entered Do-hyun's cell, he watched it closely. The robot moved toward the spilled water, its sensors blinking. Just as the robot started cleaning, Do-hyun coughed twice, the signal for Ho-jum. In his cell, Ho-jum stood up and started shouting about feeling sick. The guards turned to look at him, distracted for just a few seconds. In those few seconds, Do-hyun moved fast. He dropped a tiny piece of metal into the maintenance robot's cleaning unit. It was something he had carefully pulled from his food tray over many days, so small that the guards never noticed it was missing. The robot finished cleaning and left his cell. Do-hyun waited patiently. 3, 2, 1. Suddenly, alarms started ringing throughout cell block D. Red lights flashed in the corridors. The maintenance robot had carried the metal piece into the prison's main cleaning system, where it caused a small short circuit. "Emergency in maintenance sector," a computer voice announced. Switching to backup systems, guards ran back and forth, trying to find the problem. Commander Park arrived quickly, her face worried. "Report," she demanded. "Main cleaning system failure," Captain Choi answered. "Backup systems are running now," No danger to the prison. Do-hyun sat quietly in his cell, looking confused like all the other prisoners. But inside, he was remembering everything. How long it took guards to respond, which systems turned on first, how the backup systems worked. Every detail was important. Commander Park walked to his cell and looked at him suspiciously. "Did you have anything to do with this?" she asked. "How could I?" Do-hyun answered innocently. "I'm locked in this cell all day." But Commander Park wasn't fooled so easily. She ordered extra guards to watch Do-hyun's cell. She knew something wasn't right, but she couldn't prove anything. The maintenance robot's memory showed nothing unusual, just a normal cleaning job and a random system failure. That night, Hajum sent Do-hyun their secret signal. "Guards nervous. More cameras now." Do-hyun smiled in the darkness. "Let them add more cameras. Let them watch him more closely." They still didn't understand what was really happening. The system failure wasn't the real plan. It was just a test. Now he knew exactly how the prison would react in an emergency. The first domino had fallen, and it had shown him everything he needed to know. The next part of his plan could begin. 2 days after the maintenance system incident, Warden Min Seo Kang called a meeting with his top staff. The warden's office sat at the highest point of prison station X227, with large windows showing the stars outside. Commander Park and Captain Choi stood before his desk, not looking at each other. "Explain to me," Warden Kang said slowly, "why a simple maintenance problem has everyone so worried." He looked at Commander Park with his 4 eyes, all of them showing annoyance. "Sir," Commander Park began, "I believe the human prisoner Do-hyun Kim caused this incident. He's more dangerous than we thought." Captain Choi shifted uncomfortably. "With respect, Commander, there's no proof. The human has been a model prisoner. He spends his time solving puzzles and reading the basic books we gave him." "Exactly." Commander Park turned to face Captain Choi. "Don't you see? He's too well behaved. No human prisoner has ever been this calm in captivity. He's planning something." Warden Kang raised one of his hands for silence. "Commander Park, you're letting human ghost stories cloud your judgment. Their species is primitive. They don't have the mental capacity for complex planning." In his cell, Do-hyun sat reading a simple science book the aliens had given him. Through the walls, he could hear 2 guards talking about the meeting happening in the warden's office. Their words were quiet, but Do-hyun had trained his ears to catch every sound. "Captain Choi is right," one guard said. "This human is different. He's not like the others we've captured." "Don't be foolish," the other guard answered. "Commander Park says we should treat all humans the same. They're dangerous animals, nothing more." Do-hyun turned a page in his book, hiding his smile. The seeds of doubt he had planted were growing. The prison staff was starting to divide into 2 groups: those who believed humans were simple creatures, and those who were beginning to question everything they had been taught. Later that day, Ho-jun passed him a message during exercise time. "More prisoners asking about you. Guards arguing. Time coming soon." Do-hyun waited until the cameras turned away before signaling back. "Not yet. Let them argue more." That evening, Captain Choi came to Do-hyun's cell alone. He looked troubled. "The commander wants to move you to isolation," he said quietly. "She thinks you're too dangerous to keep in the regular cell block." "What do you think, Captain?" Do-hyun asked gently. Captain Choi didn't answer for a long time. Finally, he said, "I think we've been wrong about humans, but I can't prove it." "Sometimes," Do-hyun said, "the hardest part of seeing the truth is admitting that everything you believed before was wrong." The captain stared at him, then walked away quickly. Do-hyun watched him go, knowing his words would keep the captain thinking all night. In her office, Commander Park reviewed security footage of Do-hyun's cell for the 100th time. She knew she was right about him. The human was playing a game, but she couldn't see all the moves yet. "I'll find out what you're planning," she whispered to the image of Do-hyun on her screen. Whatever it is, I'll stop it. But in the quiet of his cell, Do-hyun knew she was already too late. The prison staff was questioning their beliefs. They were starting to doubt each other, and doubt was the most powerful weapon of all. The next phase of his plan could begin soon. Very soon. The day everything changed on prison station X-227 started like any other. The morning shift of guards took their positions. The maintenance robots began their daily cleaning rounds. Commander Park started her inspection route. But Do-hyun knew this day would be very different. In the 6 weeks since his capture, Do-hyun had learned every detail of how the prison worked. He knew which guard would be tired because they worked an extra shift yesterday. He knew which security camera would turn left at exactly 9:15 am. He knew which maintenance robot had a slightly loose panel that no one had fixed. At exactly 9:00 am, Do-hyun dropped his breakfast tray. The crash made everyone look at his cell. While they watched him pick up his food, Ho-jun quickly passed something to the prisoner in the next cell. That prisoner passed it to another and another. No one noticed the small objects moving from cell to cell. At 9:30 am, the first alarm went off in the kitchen area. The cooking systems were reporting strange temperature readings. 3 maintenance robots went to check the problem. At 9:45 am, the lights in cell block C started flickering. Guards rushed to check the power systems. While they were distracted, more small objects passed between prisoners. Commander Park stood in the control room, watching all this happen. "Something's wrong," she said. "Check all systems." But when the technicians looked at their screens, everything seemed normal. The computer said all systems were working fine. They couldn't see that Do-hyun had spent weeks teaching other prisoners how to make tiny changes to the robots that cleaned their cells. Each change was too small to notice alone, but together they were creating chaos. At 10:00 am, Captain Choi came to Do-hyun's cell. "The commander wants to question you about these problems," he said. Do-hyun stood up calmly. "Of course. I'm happy to help." As guards led him to the interrogation room, more alarms started ringing. The prison's air recycling system was reporting errors. The waste management system was shutting down. The food delivery systems were malfunctioning. "What's happening?" Warden Kang demanded, rushing into the control room. "Fix these problems." But the technicians couldn't fix anything. Every time they solved one problem, 3 more appeared. The prison's automated systems were fighting each other, each one trying to fix problems that didn't really exist. Commander Park stared at Do-hyun through the interrogation room window. He sat quietly in his chair, looking relaxed and helpful. But now she understood. He had planned this all along. "Lock down all systems," she ordered. "Stop all automated functions." But it was too late. The prison's computers, confused by hundreds of false readings, had already started emergency protocols. Doors were opening and closing by themselves. Security cameras were turning in wrong directions. Even the artificial gravity was becoming unstable. In the interrogation room, Do-hyun smiled at Commander Park. "You know," he said softly, "humans have a saying. A butterfly flapping its wings can cause a storm on the other side of the world." Commander Park's eyes widened as she finally understood. Every small incident, every tiny malfunction, had been part of his plan. The human hadn't just created chaos, he had created the perfect storm. And this was only the beginning. Alarms blared throughout prison station X-227 as the chaos spread from system to system. Commander Park stood in the control room, watching as her perfect prison fell into confusion. On dozens of screens, warning messages flashed in red. The prison's computer systems were fighting themselves, each trying to fix problems that other systems were creating. "Shut everything down," she ordered. "Return to manual control." But when the technicians tried to shut down the automated systems, nothing happened. The computers refused to accept their commands. Do-hyun had known they would try this. During his weeks in prison, he had taught other prisoners how to make the maintenance robots slowly change the prison's security codes. Now, Even the highest-ranking officers couldn't control their own systems. In the interrogation room, Do-hyun sat calmly while chaos grew around him. Captain Choi watched him through the window, finally understanding the truth. This human hadn't just planned an escape, he had planned to break the entire prison. The backup generators are failing. A technician shouted. Main power will shut down in 10 minutes. Commander Park rushed to the interrogation room. She had to know the truth before everything fell apart. How did you do this? She demanded, facing Do-hyun. How did one human prisoner cause all this? Do-hyun smiled gently. You gave me everything I needed, he explained. You thought humans were simple, so you didn't notice when we acted smart. You trusted your machines, so you didn't watch when we changed them. You believed your prison was perfect, so you didn't look for its weaknesses. The lights flickered throughout the station. In cell block D, Ho-jun and other prisoners waited patiently. They had practiced for this moment for weeks. Each one knew exactly what to do when the power went out. Warden Kang's voice boomed over the speakers. All guards to emergency positions. Prepare for total system failure. But the guards were already confused. Some received orders to go to the East Wing, while others were told to guard the West. Security doors opened and closed randomly, trapping groups of guards in different sections of the prison. The careful organization of Prison Station X-227 was falling apart. Commander Park stared at her computer screen in disbelief. The prison's AI system was reporting hundreds of emergencies at once. Fires that didn't exist, air leaks that weren't real, and system failures that seemed to move from section to section like a virus. You still don't understand, Do-hyun said quietly. This isn't just about escaping. This is about showing you something important. Showing us what? Captain Choi asked, drawn into the conversation despite himself. That the most dangerous weapon isn't a gun or a ship or even a computer, Do-hyun answered. It's the thing you thought we didn't have. Intelligence. The main lights went out, plunging the prison into darkness. Emergency lights cast red shadows everywhere. In the distance, they could hear security doors opening and closing by themselves. The prison's automated systems, confused by thousands of false signals, had begun running emergency programs that existed only in their damaged software. Commander Park looked at the human prisoner with new understanding and fear. They had thought they were studying him, but he had been studying them all along. They had believed they were in control, but they had lost control weeks ago. They had built the perfect prison, but they had never considered that their own perfect systems could be turned against them. And now it was too late to stop what was coming. In the darkness of Prison Station X-227, Do-hyun finally stood up from his chair in the interrogation room. The emergency lights cast strange shadows on the walls, and distant alarms echoed through the corridors. The time had come for the final part of his plan. What are you doing? Commander Park demanded, reaching for her weapon. But the weapon's electronic systems were dead, just like everything else in the prison. I'm giving everyone a choice, Do-hyun said calmly. He walked to the room's computer terminal and placed his hand on the screen. During the weeks of chaos, he had taught the maintenance robots to change more than just security codes. They had also added new programs to the prison's computers, hiding them so deep that no one had found them. The screen lit up with a soft blue glow. Words appeared in every language used in the prison. Choose freedom. Throughout the station, the same message appeared on every working screen. In the cells, in the guard rooms, in the control center, everywhere, the same two words glowed in the darkness. Freedom from what? Captain Choi asked, his voice uncertain. From everything, Do-hyun answered. From this war. From the lies you've been told about humans. From the lives you're trapped in. He typed a command into the computer, and something amazing happened. All across the prison, hidden programs began to wake up. These programs had been sleeping in the prison systems for weeks, waiting for this moment. They started to change how Prison Station X-227 appeared on every monitoring system in the galaxy. In the control room, Warden Kang watched in horror as his prison began to vanish from official records. First, the outer sensors went dark. Then communication systems failed. One by one, every system that connected the prison to the outside world shut down or showed false information. Hajun stepped out of his now open cell, followed by other prisoners. But they weren't rushing to escape. Instead, they moved calmly, following a plan they had practiced in their minds for weeks. Each person knew exactly where to go and what to do. You see, Do Hyun explained to Commander Park and Captain Choi, humans are good at more than just fighting. We're good at offering second chances too. He pressed another button, and more hidden programs activated. The prison's own records began to change. Names disappeared. Files erased themselves. Even video recordings started to vanish. What's happening to the station? Commander Park whispered, watching as her perfect prison became a ghost on every screen. Nothing is happening to the station, Do Hyun said. It's still here. But as far as the rest of the galaxy knows, prison station X-227 is about to become empty. No prisoners, no guards, no records, just an abandoned station floating in space. And the people? Captain Choi asked. Everyone gets to choose, Do Hyun answered. Stay and pretend nothing happened when help arrives. Or come with us to a new life. A life where we don't have to be enemies. Through the station's windows, they could see ships appearing from hidden docking bays. Ships that weren't supposed to exist. Do Hyun's plan hadn't just been about escaping. It had been about offering escape to everyone. 3 days after the last communication from prison station X-227, the alien military finally arrived. 5 warships approached the station carefully, their weapons ready. The station hung silently in space, looking exactly as it always had. All the lights were on. All the airlocks were sealed. Nothing seemed wrong from the outside. The rescue team entered through the main airlock. They moved through the corridors with their weapons raised, expecting trouble. But they found nothing. No guards, no prisoners, no signs of fighting. Even the air was clean and fresh, as if the life support systems had been carefully maintained. In the control room, they found only empty chairs and blank screens. One screen still worked, showing a simple message: never underestimate humans. The rescue team's leader tried to access the prison's computers, but all the records were gone. It was as if someone had carefully erased every trace of the people who had lived there. They searched cell block D first. Every cell was clean and empty. In one cell, they found a half-finished game of puzzles, the pieces arranged in a pattern that seemed to mean something. But no one could understand what the pattern meant. Commander Park's office was perfectly organized. Every paper was in its place. Her computer contained only one file, a video recording. In the video, she sat at her desk looking calm and determined. I was wrong about humans, she said in the recording. We all were. They're not simple creatures. They're not just soldiers. There's something we never understood until now. And now I'm going to learn more about them. Don't look for us. We don't want to be found. The rescue team found similar messages from other high-ranking officers. Captain Choi had left a detailed report explaining why he chose to leave. Even Warden Kang, who had been so sure of human inferiority, had left a message saying he needed to rethink everything he believed. The ship's docking bays were all empty, but the logs showed no ships had launched. The escape pods were all still in place. There was no way so many people could have left the station, but they had. In the prison library, they found books left open to specific pages. Each page contained a different human story about freedom, change, and new beginnings. The books seemed placed deliberately, like pieces of a larger message. The rescue team scientists tried to understand what had happened. They checked every system, studied every clue, but they could find no explanation for how hundreds of people had vanished without a trace. Months later, rumors began to spread. People claimed to see former guards and prisoners living peaceful lives on distant worlds. Some said they had found a place where the war didn't matter anymore. Others whispered about a hidden community where aliens and humans lived together, learning from each other. But no one ever found them. The only proof of their existence was Prison Station X-227, floating empty in space. It stood as a reminder that humans were far more than their enemies had believed. They weren't just warriors. They were teachers, showing others the way to freedom. And somewhere out there, Do Kyum Kim smiled, knowing that his greatest victory hadn't been escaping prison. It had been changing how his captors saw humanity forever.